Welcome to Primary Science with Miss Devita. In this video, we're going to talk about plants reproduction. Living things reproduce to continue their own kind, and so do the animal. Some animals reproduce by lay egg or give birth to live young, or they may do the both of this. Not only animals, plants also reproduce. Look at the picture. This is a picture of the tomato plants. They reproduce by using their underground stem. So the underground stem will grow into a new plant. And this is a picture of a bryophyllum plant. It reproduces by using its leaves. Look at the age of the leaves. It's ready to become a new plant. Some plants reproduce by using their seeds. These plants are what we call flowering plants. Again, flowering plants reproduce by their seeds. There are some stages included. This is the stages in the flowering plant's reproduction. This will tell us how they form the seeds and how the seeds grow into a young plant. We may start with any point, but I would start with pollination. The next stage is fertilization. Next, seed formation. And then seed dispersal. And if the conditions are right, the seed will germinate in a process called germination. And then once the plant grow into adult plants and is ready for the reproduction, they may go back again to pollination, and then fertilization, seed formation, seed dispersal, back again to germination. So that's how they repeat the stages of reproduction in the flowering plants. Now we are going to talk about the stages one by one. Let's start with pollination. It happens when a pollen is transferred to a stigma of the same flower or different flowers. If you have a look at the picture, look, the pollen here comes from an anther of a flower and then transferred by the help of a pollinator, and this one is transferred to a stigma. So by this one we can say that the pollen has already transferred to the stigma, and the name of the process is what we call it pollination. And then pollination can happen in two methods, whether it is by the help of the wind or by the help of the insect. Let's talk more about pollination. This is pollination by wind versus pollination by insect. If you have a look at the characteristic of the flowers pollinated by the wind, right, you'll see that they have dull colorful petals, or even some flowers they have no petals and they do not have scent. This is because they do not need to attract any insect to come to them. So their pollens are light and tiny, so that's how their pollens are easily blown away by the wind. And now let's talk about flowers pollinated by insect. Yeah, most of these flowers, they have the bright colorful petal, and then they have nectar. It's a sugary liquid in the flower, and they also have some scent. And these three things will attract insects to come to the flower, and that's how the insect becomes the pollinators. Right after pollination, the next process is fertilization. It is the fusion of male reproductive cell with the female reproductive cell to form a fertilized egg. So during fertilization, it forms a fertilized egg. Look at the picture. Yeah, here a pollen already landed on the stigma. As the pollen grains landed on the stigma, the the style will grow a pollen tubes, down to the ovary and oval, and that's how the male reproductive cell will fuse together or join together with the male reproductive cell, and this is what we call it fertilization. What happened after fertilization? Look at the picture. The yellow one here, this one, this is the flower, and this one is the fruit. If you notice, some parts of the flower still remain, but some parts of the flower develops into something new. So after fertilization, the ovary of the flower develops into a fruit, and the ovals inside the ovary develops into the seeds. So this step is what we call it seed formation or seed production. After the seeds is being formed, now it's time for the seeds to be dispersed away from the parent plant. So we come to the next stage. It is the seed dispersal. It is the scattering of seeds from the parent plant. This is to prevent the overcrowding. There are several ways of how the seeds can be dispersed away from the parent plant. And in this video, we're going to group them into 4 methods of seeds dispersal. Dispersal by the wind, dispersal by the water, dispersal by animals, and the last one is dispersal by explosion. Dispersal by wind. The examples are dandelion plants, maple trees, and cotton grass plant. The characteristic of the seeds, they are mostly small and light. That's how they are easily blown away by the wind. And some of them may be fluffy and have wing-like structures. Dispersal by water. The examples are coconut, lotus plant, and nipa palm tree. The characteristic of these seeds, they have fibrous husk to trap the air, and that's how they are able to float on the water. Dispersal by animals. This because some fruits are sweet and juicy. The animals will eat the fruits and may throw away the seeds, or maybe they can drop it on their droppings. So that's how these animals help the seeds to be dispersed away from the parent plant. This is another type of dispersal by animal. They don't have the fleshy and juicy fruits, but they may attach to the animal's body. Look at the picture. You may notice that the seeds are attached to the dog's fur. Okay, and then we have the examples here. The first one is the fruits of cocklebur plant. They had hooks that can attach to the animal's body. And the next one is the fruit of mimosa plant. They have stiff hair. That this stiff hair will also enable the seeds to attach to the animal's body, and that's how these animals help the seeds to be dispersed away from the parent plant. And here is the last dispersal method. It is dispersal by explosion. This one is very special because these plants do not have wing-like structure seed, and they don't have the waterproof layers to enable them to survive in the water, and they don't attract animals, or they don't have stiff hairs or hooks to attach to the animal's body, but they will burst open or crack open to let the seeds disperse away from the parent plant. Most of the seeds have pods that will dry up. When the food ripens or dries up, the pods will burst open. The examples are the flame of the forest, saga tree, rubber tree, and cucumber plant. Right after the seeds being dispersed away from the parent plant, it's time for the seeds to grow into a young plant. And this is what we call with germination. So we can say that germination is the development of a seed into a young plant. But it will not be that easy for the seeds to grow into a young plant because there needs to be the right conditions for germination. The seeds need the water, the air, and the warmth. They need these three things to germinate. But for germination, they do not need the light yet. So back again to the stages in the reproduction of a flowering plant. There are 5 stages. We can start with anything, but the order should be in order like this. So let's say I start with the fertilization. So the next step will be seeds formation. And the next one will be seeds dispersal, goes to the germination if the conditions are right. And then the adult plants will be ready for pollination again, back to fertilization, seed formation, seed dispersal, and germination again, and again. So this is how they make up their life cycles of a flowering plant. That's all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on my next one.